So after Seattle allows homelessness, crime, you name it, to just run rampant, businesses are shutting down left, right, and center, including Kroger shutting down a Fred Meyer store. Now all of a sudden, Seattle's complaining about we've got a food desert. Not a big shocker, right? What's Mayor Bruce Harrell doing about it? Let's get into it. Here we go. So one of the things that I often talk about is if you are not requiring homeless folks that have massive drug addiction issues and mental health care issues, if you're not getting them the help that they need, all you're doing is playing whack-a-mole from the standpoint of clearing out a homeless encampment and moving them somewhere else. They will literally move, as we'll see in a couple articles, a couple of blocks down the road. Now, what's happened in Seattle is Bruce Harrell came in on a moderate platform, and he said, hey, I'm going to clean up downtown. Okay, so we had massive homeless encampments in downtown. I walked through there in 2020, 2021, and it was like, holy smokes, what's going on here? Oh, the whole downtown core had been cleared out. All of those homeless people had to go somewhere, right? So they get cleared out from downtown? Well, they went to Beacon Hill, which is to the south. They went to Lake City, which is to the north and east. They went into Ballard, which is into the north and west. These are the residential neighborhoods that are more affordable, that have less money, and that's where the homeless have gone. So is it a shocker that a Fred Meyer, which if you're not familiar with Fred Meyer, it's a big, it's got everything. It's got clothes, gardening, auto, massive grocery section. It's one of those stores, right? Kind of an all-in-one, kind of like a Walmart, but grocery and drugstore as well oftentimes have, prescriptions and all that good stuff. So is it a shocker that they close one down? No. Yeah, shoplifting was just running rampant, off the hook. And I liken this to so many other communities that have just watched their grocery stores, watched their CVS, watched their, whatever drugstore get just absolutely pickpocketed clean. Just 5-finger discount, 10 ways from Sunday, right? Just absolutely allow criminals to go in and go ham and not really do anything about it. And then when the store shuts down, when corporate says, hey, we got to make some decisions here, we got to cut some stuff out, and these stores get closed, and lo and behold, other grocery stores in the community have been closed before, you kind of see a trend there, right? But you're not willing to deal with it, because if you did, you'd actually have to deal with the issues you have, which are you're letting criminal activity go. You're letting drugs run rampant. You're not really incarcerating anybody. You're not getting people the help that they need. You're allowing homeless to live just wherever the F they want. And this is what happens. Not necessarily saying this happens in other communities as far as the food desert thing, but all those circumstances certainly do not help. And the circumstances I just described are inherent to big, blue, liberal-run, Democrat-run cities. It's how they operate. So let's take a look at this one. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell announced a new executive order Tuesday aimed at improving access to groceries and medicine across the city, which is admirable. But had he focused on criminal activity, shutting down the drugs, actually doing something with the homelessness, which I don't think he can, given the far left extremists that Seattle kowtows to, he doesn't stand a chance to really make a dent in any of that. So he's kind of left with it. I am by no means defending Mayor Bruce Harrell, but it's one of those things where, I saw that one coming from literally a mile away. Following the recent closure of Fred Meyer, he did this stuff. The order directs city departments to take a multi-pronged approach, but don't crack down on the criminals. Don't crack down on the drugs. Don't crack down on the shoplifting. Take a multi-pronged approach to combat food deserts, meaning all the stores that sell groceries have closed down. And why have they closed down? Why do you have a food desert? Because you robbed it blind. And corporate said, you know what? We got a bunch of Looney Tunes running around this grocery store. They're robbing it blind. It's not safe. Our insurance for this store is through the roof. We're done. We're done. Just like Whole Foods in San Francisco. We're done after 18 months brand new store, millions of dollars invested. We're done. We can't do it. Neighborhoods where residents lack easy access to affordable, healthy food and pharmacies. How about just food in general? As mayor, I'm fighting for every neighborhood in Seattle to have access to affordable food and medicine, which is essential for health and safety of the people of our city, but not really taking care of the underlying issues, which is Fred Meyer wouldn't have closed down if it didn't have people just absolutely going to Pound Town on its shelves. Wouldn't have closed down. Wouldn't have happened. But we've got all these policies. Well, the best I can do is clean up downtown and folks will go where they go. Well, they went to Lake City and now Fred Meyer closed down and here we are, podcast. One key provision directs the city to explore purchasing the Lake City property previously occupied by Fred Meyer and to develop a plan for its future community use. How about getting some grocery stores in there if you got a grocery store desert? What about that? Not developing a plan. And I know you gotta develop a plan. We gotta reimagine. We gotta rethink how this whole thing goes. But in the meantime, your constituents in Lake City have lost their grocery store and they're like, well, where do we go? Away. You go away because that's where the groceries have gone, away from your shoplifting constituency. Weird. The order also requires city departments, including finance, administration, office of yada yada, to identify current and potential food deserts across Seattle. All right. Yeah, I'm not really interested. Don't really care. This is what you get. This is literally what you get when you don't prioritize public safety, when you don't, incarcerate criminals. And we know Lake City is just to the east of Highway 99. And we know it's the Wild West of prostitution. So this isn't a shocker at all. This is not a shocker. Harrell pushes for city role in grocery store acquisitions amid Seattle closures. This was Center Square. We're looking at a Mamdani, right? I mean, he wants to make, because groceries in New York City have become so unaffordable, he is saying, well, let's have government run grocery stores. Because that has worked really well. That has worked really well for Cuba. Yeah, how's that going? Well, you got a little card, and sometimes they'll write on your card you got some stuff, and sometimes you'll get a loaf of bread. Oftentimes you won't. Whatever you get, right? You want to have a grocery store like that? No, you want to have a normal grocery store you can walk into, and also not have everything locked up. That has become something that I think folks from other communities where you don't have this type of criminal activity just running rampant. You send somebody to a grocery store or a CVS in Seattle and people are like, wait a minute, or San Francisco or LA, why is everything locked up? Well, it's because you don't really prioritize, incarcerating criminals. They come in and just steal. And after a while, the grocery store goes, we got to make some revisions to our business model. That one's closed. That one's closed. That one's closed. And then people are, why is it closed? Oh, I don't get it. Yeah. So city grocery store is always the go-to, right? Well, since and they blame it on big corporate. Since big corporate closed down the store, we need to come up with our own solution. How about if you provided an environment where things aren't being ripped off on the daily, where you don't have crazy people coming in? What if you dealt with that? Well, you can't do that because it's going to require police involvement. And here in Seattle, we hate the police. I personally don't. I think law enforcement is important because it's easier to sell a home in a community that prioritizes public safety. It's much easier to sell a home in Bellevue, Washington, than it is to sell a home in the community we're talking about here, which is Lake City in Seattle. Because, when you show the home, there might be a drive-by shooting with a pimp involved. You don't know, right? You don't know. Anything could happen. Exciting times in Seattle. Bellevue, kind of quiet here. It's just Seattle residents report encampments in record numbers. Here is the underlying story to why that happened, why Lake City's Fred Meyer closed down. So it goes on to start with, whenever Louise Klaus sees a tent in a Lake City park near her home, she pulls out her phone, boop, 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 takes a picture and sends it to the city's officials via Seattle Find It, Fix It app to report an unauthorized encampment. Within days, she says the city usually responds to her complaint by removing the encampment, only for her to find the same tent in person in a nearby park. So she files another complaint, and round and round and round and round we go, because we're not really serious about getting these people that are addicted to drugs, that have severe mental issues, the help that they need. We just want to do this whack-a-mole thing because that is misguided compassion. But let's scroll down here. Harold began an effort last year to keep streets in downtown and the Chinatown International District clear of disorder through daily street cleanings and removals. Outreach workers say a significant chunk of the city's homeless population has shifted from those central districts into the surrounding areas. 4 neighborhoods, Capitol Hill, North Beacon Hill, Belltown, and Ballard, were responsible for about half of the increase in encampment reports over the last year. So during the pandemic, downtown was shut down, and the CDC said, you can have your homeless encampment wherever you want. We're not going to clear it out. We don't know how long this is going to happen. So homeless people, drug addicts, criminals, gang members, the world is your oyster. Go for it, boys, was basically the word that they got. And they went for it. And downtown Seattle became just a sea of tents. Just, tents carpet bombed all over. And then, lo and behold, that had an impact on businesses in downtown. So all the businesses left, and they still haven't come back, because why would you go back to an environment where they're sweeping out the homeless, but you still got a bunch of people running around that are absolutely whacked out of their minds because the Blade is located in downtown Seattle, and we are not doing anything about that. Just let it go. It's fine, and that's the open-air drug market. So you got the 4 neighborhoods. Which neighborhoods are reporting the most encampments? I mean, it's pretty obvious. You've got Ballard here, you've got Capitol Hill, North Beacon Hill, and then Lake City is up in here. And even though it doesn't have as many calls for what we're talking about, actually it's up in here, kind of this area right here. It doesn't have as many calls, but when you've got a Fred Meyer there, and keep in mind, this is Seattle. So these calls, I mean, you're talking, this is as many calls as you're going to get anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. This is it. This is the epicenter with Capitol Hill, Ballard, and North Beacon Hill. You've just got story after story after story of just shenanigans happening, right? Fred Meyer announces 2 store closings in Lake City and Redmond. And the one in Redmond is not that far from me. They had a bunch of shoplifting. They had, they had just criminal activities happening. And they basically said, we're closing it down. Plus, it didn't fit their format, and it had a bunch of stuff where corporate said, boop, no, gone. But there are many, many, many other grocery stores in Redmond where there aren't in Lake City, because Lake City has basically, they've been pushed out. And all of a sudden, you're like, there's nowhere to buy groceries here. And here's kind of another lead in. Sprawling Seattle homeless camping cleared, but many campers relocate just blocks away. I mean, we know that to be true. Let's just take a quick peek at this. This is 2 minutes, 44 seconds.
And tonight's Project Seattle report, complaints about a homeless encampment had been mounting for weeks. Today, the city of Seattle cleared it out. The problem is that many of the same people and their tents ended up just 2 blocks away. The removal took place this morning in Ballard at the corner of Leary Avenue and Dock Place. Couples Joel Marino live this evening in Ballard with why many neighbors say nothing got solved. Joel?
Yeah, it's very frustrating for these folks, Preston. And I can tell you, tents and other makeshift structures used to cover this sidewalk behind me. You can see it is clear. But many of the people who were living out here, well, now they are on another sidewalk and in front of a new set of businesses. City crews gathered up debris while 20 or so people living along this intersection packed up their belongings and started clearing out. Neighbors say the encampment had been here in Ballard for several months.
So hopefully they've gotten people who are living here into actual housing rather than just pushing them out.
Seattle's Unified Care Team joined up with...
See, that's the misnomer. That's the ideology of people who live in Seattle. Hopefully they got these people squared away. No, they just maybe moved them into shelter. Most of these people did not get housing, and most of them do not want housing. Most of them do not want housing. Less than 5% typically when a sweep happens accept actual housing or shelter. They just don't want it because they want to keep doing drugs on the streets. And that's the whole misconception about how, well, I think they fixed it this time. They really got them this time. And all they did was put their stuff in a shopping cart and move it 2 blocks down the road. I'm over here, guys. And you'll know because I'll pitch my tent again.
Outreach workers to offer shelter and services the past couple of weeks. But as the encampment got swept, many of the homeless loaded up shopping carts.
Why does this guy have a belt for his pants that are literally on his thighs? What's the point of that? I don't know.
Carts and walked down the street. Minutes later, they were taking over a new
There we go.
a short distance away.
They
Perfect.
swept Leary Avenue and Dock Street, which is 2 blocks up the street, and the whole train just moved down here in front of Salmon Bay and our business.
Bob Williams says this is an even worse location because of all the activity of the surrounding maritime industry.
Customers coming and going. We got trucks moving down here. And yeah, this isn't a solution to the problem at all.
Shelter and other help was being offered, so Como News asked why so many had rejected it.
People were offered assistance that's not actually suitable for them. Places that are uncomfortable, places around the same people with the same habits.
Some of the homeless said they want...
Sorry, it was uncomfortable for the homeless drug addicts with mental health care issues. So they didn't take the opportunity to get into shelter. They want to keep doing drugs on the sidewalk. That's bottom line. That's what they want to keep doing. That's what that guy is saying.
wanted tiny homes, but only shelter spaces where people bunked up was being offered.
How do them do it?
Neighbors say it's frustrating for everyone, and the situation still seems unsafe.
There has to be another way to go about solving the issue, because what we are offering as a community, they aren't willing to take.
There's plenty of ways to handle it. It's just you're going to have to involuntarily put some people into treatment or some mental health care, and you're going to have to involve the police. Police is going to have to work with health, with mental health, with health services in general, because these people are whacked out of their minds and sick on dope. So what are you going to do? Well, you're just going to keep playing this ridiculous shenanigan of a whack-a-mole game. Just, we clear out the encampment. They walk 2 blocks down and they piss off some other business owner. That is how you get a situation where after a while, Kroger says, no, we're done with that one. Homie, don't play that game. And then all of a sudden the mayor, we need to do an executive order. And he's right to do the executive order from the standpoint of getting emphasis on, hey, we got to get some groceries up in here. But doing that executive order, looking around for where we can put a grocery store. Hey, maybe the city should run the grocery store. Well, if the city runs the grocery store, then that is taxpayers' dollars paying for groceries to be stolen by non-working constituents, right? By non-working occupants of the homeless industrial complex. So you want that to work? That's not going to work. You got to come up with solutions. This isn't one of them. Just, let's identify where we could maybe put a grocery store instead of get to the root cause, which is the grocery store left because criminal activity was happening at a rampant pace and they didn't want to take the risk anymore. It wasn't making sense financially. So close her down. But what you're consistently hearing is, big corporate has screwed us yet again. Big corporate is not taking consideration of our community. No, they did. And they said, you're robbing them blind. No, thank you. Hard pass. We'll take our store and we'll go elsewhere. Come visit us there. How many times have we heard that? Time and time and time and time again. And this is no exception. This is one more example of actions have consequences. And unfortunately, these are the shenanigan consequences. You got a grocery store desert and no grocery stores. And who does it impact the most? Yeah, the people that the city of Seattle says that they care about the most, which are the poor, the misrepresented, the minorities, the black, the whatever, all those folks, they're going to get hosed because now they don't have a grocery store. So how's that working out? Not all that great, right? All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again. Bye for now.